CC gave us to be able to get that in this year's construction season. So we looked at the a revised phasing plan to include 3 phases. I believe you've got, does everyone have one?
Yes,
Copy that?
I should have that up on the screen. Over here sleeping. Not sleeping, but focused.
So before we move forward with the finalizing the city developer agreement, we wanted to just present this to get any feedback or from you regarding our scenario moving forward. Phase 1A would just be an extension of Foxfield Road and a little bit of Sienna Glen Way to get the detention basin built and to bring 8 lots up for sale and for building permits and for home construction. That's kind of the simplest and I think least sort of, well, it's the smallest phase that we've got. They'll allow us to generate some lot sales for the infrastructure we need for the phases moving forward. Phase 1B includes 13 lots and the connection to the completion of Sienna Glen Way and the connection to Liliana Lane, or Terrace, I'm sorry. And then followed by 1C, 16 lots, which will then complete the plat. And at that time, we would build the remaining, or rebuild, we would build the improvements on County Trunk MM. And a lot of this is market-driven with the sales of the lots, but we feel to get moving, you know, at least this year, we would like to present these 3 phases for our initial developers agreement.
Are there questions right now from trustees?
Has planning seen this already?
The plan commission saw the plat, but not the phasing plan. Because the phasing plan is really related more to the development agreement than anything. And I did talk to the fire chief this afternoon about this, and he likes this idea better than, you know, when you had 1A on the top or 1B was. The one question he had, which is what I think Jeff anticipated when we were talking about this on Friday, was I told him you're going to have Foxfield will be a gravel road for construction traffic off of MM during phase 1A.
Say that again? What?
So when we were talking on Friday, the question was, is Foxfield Road going to be a construction entrance off of MM for 1A?
We were looking at doing that when we were going to do the upper one. 1A was the 13 lots, but yeah, that'd be a lot of gravel to put in now. So
Okay.
I hadn't really planned on doing that because I thought with 1A being closer, that the fire trucks would basically just come around on Foxfield.
Because he was saying if that was the case, that he was going to ask you to leave it so that he could, in an emergency where Foxfield was blocked, he could come in that way. But if you're not going to do it, then it won't be available. So I did ask him to send me and Jeff, you know, something, an email or something for the file. But I think he finds 1A acceptable. So.
Okay.
So how are we gonna deal with traffic coming over the hill? And how are we gonna deal with kids trying to walk along the highway to get home? This kind of ties in a little bit with the conversation we had last year about the lack of sidewalk going to Foxborough Estates.
Jeff, you want to maybe explain what road?
Yeah, we actually have in this year's budget, it's actually going to be probably pushed into next year's budget as the sidewalk from Foxborough Estates down to Pleasant Oak Avenue there. With this project, I'm assuming it would be part of phase, I guess you would probably do the sidewalk as part of phase 3 is that
Yes.
true? Okay. Sidewalk that would
Phase,
go.
1C.
1C, I'm sorry,
1C.
phase,
1C, yeah.
phase 1C that would go from Foxfield Road on the west side all the way up to the northern boundary of the property. We still don't have the link between those two. That's not been figured out yet.
So Jeff, back in '07, '08, when Viridian was looking at this property, we had a development agreement, we had a draft of it. And at that time, the village would have had the ability to use eminent domain to put a bike trail along MM. The state now has removed that authority from us. We cannot do that. I think it was just this last year, or, yeah.
And how about the traffic coming over the hill prior to that turn-in on Foxfield, especially if you got construction equipment moving slow?
Well, they're not, for at least 1A, it sounds like at least for 1A, you're not gonna be doing that. But for 1C, they're gonna do turning lanes. And also, they're asking the county to reduce the speed limit on MM as well.
You looked at, and maybe you can go into detail on the vision, you did a vision profile, a speed profile through there and the sight vision distances. So you might want to
Yeah.
elaborate on that a little bit.
So when I was going through the design to verify the existing grade and the existing hill of where we're meeting, I mean,
No,
No,
You're fine.
sorry.
where we're teeing into MM, we went out and surveyed the existing center line, developed a profile, and was able to determine that we were close enough to the high point that that at the current speed, we met the requirements for sight distance and stopping sight distance and intersection design. So knowing that, and knowing that in the future, with the amount of additional traffic that this area is going to generate, we'll also petition with the county to lower the speed limit, just as a safety factor as well. So right now, I think, is this speed limit 45?
45.
45, yeah. So on paper, it works, and it works based on our analysis. And like I said, with the additional traffic, we're going to petition for a 35 or 40 to reduce it down to that, so that anything below 45 will just be better. And just to give you an idea, what the scope, the improvements on MM are, as you're heading north into town, there'll be a bypass lane on the right-hand side, and then as you're coming south from the village, there'll be a right turn lane in, and then as you're leaving the development and heading south, there'll be a taper coming out of that. So it matches the county standard for T intersections.
So this wasn't the question, but what do you anticipate the price points are going to be on these homes?
On the homes. I can speak to the lots. We're looking at keeping the lot prices in the mid-90s, keeping them under 100,000. I envision the home prices to be in the low 3s to high 3s to match the homes that are already there in Autumn Woods.
And again, this isn't part of your question tonight, but I'm curious, any multifamily going into this development?
No, not in this. There's two more phases after this. This is phase 1. Phase 2, which it ties the 20 acres to the south of this, and that'll all be single-family residents. Across the street, there's 20 acres there that we're looking at having, I believe it's 5 duplexes. Even though it's zoned for more multifamily like fourplexes, I want to keep it more single-family.
Thank you. I'm done.
Okay. Other questions or comments? So you're asking, are we okay with this, right? That's what you want to know going forward? So are we okay with this? I have no problem with it.
Fine.
the heads went up and down, so that's good.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I know we have some people here tonight to address the board, so I'm gonna move item 6, community input, up, and do it right now. And this invites anybody who would like to address the board to come forward at this time and do so. I think we had somebody here. Tom, did you want to address the board? Yes. Okay, you can come forward. He was here first, Tom.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Tom.
Yeah,
For the record, just to identify identify yourself and your address, please.
Tom Bjornson, and 153 Johnson Street,
Thank you.
Oregon. I've been working hard, but a lot of days I've had rain, and here's a couple things I completely disagree with. On the house, the letter that I got from the village's road. The front patio still has an abundance of items threatening the structural integrity of the patio walls. I don't think there's anything wrong with the front patio. I would like to have it reevaluated by another building inspector. I don't think he got it right at all. And about the dilapidated lean-to sail shed is still present. I've been taking things out of there a lot. I still got a bit more to go. But I would like to point out that that was noticed by Officer Elsner, and that he made an illegal search by looking behind a big tree that was in front of that window. And he was coming around the driveway at the time, avoiding all the cherry wood that I was trying to save and put in that part of the driveway. I was gonna use that for mushroom logs later. And he stopped and started swatting mosquitoes. Then he looked and he saw that looked through the window and saw that the roof, most of it was gone. I was unaware of that. And it's taken a lot of work to get everything out, but I think he made an illegal search. So I think the whole problem should be disregarded because he did an illegal search. And there's other things. I'm expecting a problem with my brother this weekend. He's gonna come and just throw everything. I'm gonna call the cops. But I still gotta I think I'm gonna take some traps away and store them at a friend's place, because with the photograph that was shown in your ideas were not quite right. The problem was not the ceiling inside the garage, it's the fact that the large drawers are not attached. To get them down and back up is a two-person job. I can get things more in the garage if I can get them down, but it's too big and too dangerous for me. Also, to get the bottles into the basement. We've had a lot of cold and rain, so I haven't been doing that. What I've been doing instead is cutting and poisoning like a lot of walnut trees and things. And remember, for the past 4 years, my full-time job, night and day, was caring for my mother. I still have lunch with her every day. I've had her out 4 times and 3 times around the block. And I've been taking care of my sister's dogs lately. She's been having medical problems with her knees. So I've been taking care of them, and they take time too. I take them across to the dog park about twice a day, morning and evening. And I just feel overwhelmed. Oh, I've also been the victim of a crime.
Okay, let's not go into that.
Okay, I'd like to get into the part where it would take time to file all the proper papers. It's against the county judge.
Yeah, and that's fine to say that part, but we don't need to know all the details
Okay.
on there, Tom, just knowing that
Okay, it's
is
just
taking
a little
time.
more complicated than I would like to find the time to find. I have 3 savings bonds that I either should find, or I have the replacement forms for them to fill out that complicated paperwork. It might be a little beyond me, but I think I can do it. So I'm working hard, I want more time. And I don't wanna have any problem with my brother this weekend.
Yeah, okay, so we're not able to discuss, it's not on our agenda.
Okay, but I just thought I'd
But
let
we
you know
appreciate the
what
information.
I've been doing. I hope more time can be added. We've had a lot of rain and a lot of cold.
I think Mr. Rao will take into consideration things that he needs to, but cleaning up needs to be a high priority. We've been doing this for 2 years, so stay at it. We appreciate that.
Two more things before I go. I have an animal waste container behind the bush in the driveway. Also, I plan on changing some of the cordage on the bird pole for my hops to a brown colored ropish lengths up instead of the brightly colored old battered baling twine. And just things like that. I think a lot of times I'm not understood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tom.
And give me a call sometime, Steve.
I will. I saw you left a voicemail.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch. I may just stop by.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, Tom.
You're up. Welcome, Hans.
Good evening. Hans Milner, I live at 133 West Lincoln Street in the Village. I'm here to discuss two items today. First, very briefly, I've noticed that you have a mill and overlay scheduled for East Netherwood. It seems pretty obvious to me, and I've also talked to another civil engineer about this, that the contractor did a poor job of compaction on the curb sides there, and the ground, the concrete, the pavement settled a lot. That is not, it's not due to heavy traffic. It was a lack of compaction. And two things to consider about that. One is what was the firm that did the design and the monitoring and the construction? Seems like you might want to approach them about doing a proper job of compaction if that's possible then. But I don't know if I've gone on that road quite a bit, and it's like near the, it's more particularly on the north side. It seems like they must not have run the proper compactor over that to get it down. The second item concerns the bicycle trail, which is I've had my reservations about it, as some of you know, but it's been a really great asset to the village, and I'm amazed at the number of people that love it, and bird watchers and stuff like that. It has some flooding along it, and you know it's a recreational trail that if you don't do anything about it, you know maybe that's not a priority or you don't want to deal with it. But my concern again goes to engineering. In my opinion, the firm, and I wasn't present, and some of you were not present at the time that discussions were underway about the design of that. In my opinion, the planning firm and the engineering firm should have warned the village that there were likely to be flooding problems, or there was a definite risk of flooding problems along the section where you have standing water now. I don't find it particularly surprising. I grew up on a farm in central Wisconsin where we had a lot of drainage issues with farm fields. We actually did a lot of work ourselves, or hired some guys with bulldozers. Did a lot myself. I took care of drainage issues around some of the farm buildings and the like. And that section of trail was never, I would guess, was never more than 6 inches or so above the level of the water in that swamp. And so I would encourage the village to look back in your records and see if you got any warning from the engineers. If you didn't, they dropped the ball, and you should let them know that, because it shouldn't be a surprise. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of rain, but it's pretty low. Other parts of the trail, you know, are on higher elevation. It would not have been trivial there to locate the trail somewhere else. It would not have been trivial to add fill, but at minimum, the engineering firm should have warned the village that you were likely to have standing water there. They should. I would not accept, oh, we never saw it coming sort of thing, because at any rate, I also feel that that's not the only evidence of the engineering firm dropping the ball. Some of you may know that my part of the trail runs through my mother-in-law's farm, has an easement there, and they did not, the drainage provisions there were not done properly. Some that extends up in the field, I'm trying to rectify that, but given these two instances, I encourage the village to approach these planning engineering firms and say, look, guys, this is not okay. If you do decide to do some remediation, maybe they should kick some money in. I don't know, that's kind of beyond me, but I would not accept an excuse from them that they couldn't have seen it coming. Anybody can see any competent engineer who knows that water runs downhill should have seen that is coming, in my opinion. I can't think of anything else that has gone around in the surrounding area that would have raised the water that much and kept it from draining. I don't think any farming practices have changed around there. That's it.
Okay.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll talk to Jeff about that, and we can see what we can find and go from there.
It's kind of fun to ride a bike through there with 8 or 10 inches of standing water. But I do have a.
For some.
You're not the only one who's done that. I know someone else who did that just for fun.
I have a good boot dryer, so. Okay, have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Hans. Take care.
So 3B, it's not here, right?
No,
We'll hold on that.
yeah, I guess so.
Okay, item 3B, the person is not here on a public appearance, so we'll wait. Item 4 is approval of minutes. There are none before us tonight. Item 5 is vouchers. We have vouchers tonight in the amount of $308,901.10 for approval. So need a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Need a roll call vote, please?
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Bollig,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Thank you. Are there questions?
I do have a question. Elisa is going to be excited because I do. Okay, these are from Computer Magic, and they're probably just incidental questions, but just the same, I would like to ask. For one, the description is the Emergency Operations Center. And where is that?
We're, in the budget, the board gave funding to the police department to set up a emergency center, and it'll be in the courtroom.
In the courtroom, okay, all right.
I think it's actually part of being accredited, Jerry, to be honest with you. Besides, we need to do it, it's not part of being accredited, I believe.
All right. And then, number 3906 to Safe Build, and their permanent fees for April of 2018, a little over $15,000. Do we collect them and then give them a portion of the
Correct.
fees? Is
Yep.
that-
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And
So-
that's 75%, so
They get 75%,
we get
Correct.
25.
all right?
Can I ask what that is? Safe build?
Oh, it's building,
it's our building inspector.
Okay,
Building inspector, yeah.
thank you.
Sorry.
Private service that we use for building inspection, and then we split a certain percentage of the permit fees with them.
Okay, and then on 8845 to Vanderwall, tourist rooming houses, $128. What is it? Tourist?
so that's happening in some communities, and particularly in Lake Geneva, and so we talked about it at a couple of staff meetings, and we decided at this point, we're not concerned that there'll be a lot of people in Oregon that would be renting out their houses for tourism.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, if it ends up being a problem, we'll end up dealing with it, but with all the other things we have to do with planning, we decided to put that on the back burner for now.
Okay, it just was kind of vague. It was just kind of a interesting new description that
Yep.
I hadn't seen before. Thank you, those are my questions.
Are there others? Seeing none, we have motion second to approve vouchers in the amount of $308,901.10. Ask for roll call, please.
We
We
did, Steve.
already did.
Did we do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were
Go
confusing me.
backwards.
Boy, I'm kidding.
I won't say
So I had to
anything.
vote before, I was thinking I was doing something wrong, they did
It
that.
worked out fine.
This has not been a good start
It worked
tonight.
out fine.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'll see if I can do this right. Item 7. get on the right roll here. Proclamations and announcements, I have one to make on this. On May 8th, village staff, including myself and Jeff, were honored to accept an award from the Madison Area Rehabilitation Centers, or MARC. They had a banquet recognizing Ethan, who is a person who works at the village hall for us and does tasks in the village. Has a job coach with him, does a great job. I was very pleased to see that not only were Jeff and I there, but also from the office, Lisa, Peggy, Joey, Candy, and Sue went. They paid their own way for the banquet. This young man is highly liked and highly respected, and has been a great addition in the village hall.
Absolutely.
It's just been really nice to have him here. He was called up in front with Jeff, and Jeff made some comments and was recognized before a large audience that was there, and he handled himself very well, which is not a surprise because that's what he does. So this award recognizes the village as outstanding in the employment of adults with developmental disabilities. We're honored to participate in that program, and our staff and facilities benefit from our work with Mark and our employees. Secondly, village would like to express sincere condolences to Ethan, Scott, Alice, and Heidi, and all the Mark staff following the passing of Jamie Gulseth, Program Director for Mark. Jamie, age 45, passed away on May 10th, 2 days after the banquet, following a short battle with cancer. She's very well liked by staff and clients at Mark. We greatly missed. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Jamie's family and the Mark community. I know she thought highly of Ethan and vice versa. It's been a loss for him and for the going forward of Mark. It's a great organization. It's done a lot of good work with Ethan and others like him for years and years and years. The banquet was very impressive.
It's a lot of fun.
It's nice for the village to be recognized in the part that we've all played in helping make that happen. Other board comments?
I'd like to just mention that I heard from a constituent today about trash containers, trash and recycling, people who don't pull them back from the curb. They just leave them all right up at the curb like all week, and didn't like that very much, didn't like the way it made the village look, and I don't know I know we can't address it at this meeting, but maybe we could discuss that at a future time. You know, I'm not talking about making a new ordinance or anything like that, but
We have a
just-
requirement. It's in there that
Oh, it
there's a
is?
certain amount of time before the pickup.
24 hours,
24 hours,
Really?
and then 12 hours after it's picked.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we could do something about notifying those homeowners.
I'll make a copy of that pertinent portion and put it in your mailbox up there.
Okay, thank you.
I have a solution I use too, but ask me afterwards, okay?
Okay, yeah, no problem, sorry.
It works.
You just wanted to bring it up
No, I
publicly.
appreciate that, yeah.
You just put roadkill in there.
There you go.
That encourages people to take them back up to the house.
As fast as possible before Jeff can.
Before, yeah.
Any other board comments? Okay, we're going to B, staff comments.
There's two election days, which I think it's going to be in November that's going to affect the board meeting, I believe. I'm not sure how August will be. I have them on there anyway, so.
Yeah, okay.
And then just a couple upcoming things. Our next board meeting will be the annual renewal of alcohol beverage licenses. And then before the planning commission meeting, we're having the civic campus open house from 5:30 to 6:30. And then a board meeting on June 18th. No board meeting on July 2nd, board meeting on the 9th, and then a special committee meeting that we're going to be looking at the draft demerit point system, and also the salary survey, and starting to talk about the village planner position. And then the second board meeting in July will be the 23rd. So hopefully that works with your schedules.
Thank you. Item 8A, the village board recognizes former Oregon Community Access Coordinator Liz Harlow will be inducted into the Wisconsin Community Media Hall of Fame, and videographer Tim Olson for receiving Wisconsin Community Media Top Excellence Award for his Welcome Home to Oregon program. Congratulations to Liz and Tim. There's lengthy information in the packet that people online can see. I believe Liz was involved for 30 years, started our cable TV and built it into a real strong, solid, important part of what happens in the village. And thanks also to Tim, who worked as a high school student for the cable access and went on to take courses in college and then came back to work there and do that great video that has been widely shared and respected. So thanks, Liz and Tim, for your work. Item B, EMS Recognition Week is this week.
You know, I wanted to mention, I talked to the fire chief last week, Thursday night, at the county board meeting, I think, Jerry, right?
They were recognized.
40 years of service
Yeah.
for the,
Yes,
for the,
40 years.
it's amazing, so, yeah, congratulations to them.
Yeah. Have gone from a small garage on Oak Street to a much more facility now.
Absolutely.
Okay, item C, discussion and possible action about possibly refunding the June 2018 rent for remaining tenants at the Waterfall Motel at 1053 Park Street. Recommended motion is to approve refunding rent for the tenants at the motel for June if they move out by June 30th. There's a note, this would cost the village approximately $1,910 to $2,000 in lost rent, but may help current tenants generate the required security deposit for the next rental unit.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks for staff for bringing this forward.
Yep, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
So-
could I ask a question, though? What prompted the refund?
We are trying to provide an incentive for them to leave by the end of the month, because they have to be out by July 8th. And if they're not out by July 8th, I hate to put it this way, we'll have to go through the process to evict them.
Okay, that'll cause,
And one eviction is about that much.
okay,
Yeah, I don't want to even talk about that. I hope there's really, I think after this month, there's only going to be 4 people left.
okay.
Four tenants left, so.
All right.
Yeah, and we're trying to get them to move out before that deadline.
So in other words, we're gonna spend money in order to save money.
Well, and also, I've been talking to the property manager, and Eric agrees that some people are having a hard time coming up with the security deposit, so if you refund them their rent, they take that and do the security deposit for their next unit, in a way trying to get them to move out of the unit.
Okay. And then after it is empty, how long before it's demoed?
We have to do the
Yeah, we'll do the asbestos evaluation, that's actually ongoing in the next couple of weeks, you see that paragraph in there. And then, depending on what they find, we'll then come back to you with an abatement recommendation. We'll have to approve that, and then once we get the abatement recommendation, we can then get the permit from DNR to have the practice burn and the demolition.
Very good, thank you.
So hopefully this summer.
Late summer, early fall is
Yeah,
what we're
probably.
hoping.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? So we have the motion and second to approve refunding the rent for remaining tenants at the motel property for June if they move out by June 30th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item D,
Thank you for that.
Summerfest permits, discussion and possible action regarding approval of temporary Class B fermented malt picnic licenses for beer for Summerfest. The dates are June 21 through 24. Background check approved by the police department. So
So
that's
moved.
what the recommended motion is.
Second.
Thank you. These are routine, we do these every year. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 2, approval of permit for Oregon Chamber of Commerce to present Kaiser Fireman's Park, be present at Kaiser Fireman's Park and J.C. Park after posted hours for Summerfest event, same dates, so we need that as a motion, please.
So move. Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. You're all set. Judy, item 3, you're welcome. Did you want to speak? Okay. Discussion and possible action, waiving of fees.
We did most of them last year, so I put it on the agenda again.
For the chamber?
Yes.
For Summerfest?
Yep, mhm.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
you.
That passes, so. All 3, it's a hat trick, I think they call it. Okay, item E, discussion possible action regarding updating library impact fee and introducing park impact fee. Recommend motion is to approve allocating up to $2,000 to have the village attorney prepare the necessary documents for increasing the current library impact fee and introducing new park impact fees.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
What came out of the Park and Rec plan, the update was that we're gonna introduce with the Park Board and the Village Board's approval, a new impact fee for park improvements. We'll still have the other fee in place, land dedication, but we're gonna, the impact fee for the debt service for the police building and Public Works building, those both expire in September of this year. And so we're proposing to actually increase the current library impact fee for a couple years until the new library is built. And Matt and I were talking, we thought, let's be efficient and do this together
Yeah,
and try to save some money, and that's what we're gonna do,
okay,
if the board approves this.
yeah. The library MOU group has talked about this and is in favor of proceeding in this direction, so. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, so we have the motion second to approve allocating up to $2,000 to have the village attorney prepare the necessary documents for increasing the current library impact fee and introducing a new park impact fee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item F, discussion of possible action regarding annual tax increment financing reporting requirements. Recommended motion is to approve hiring Ellers to prepare the annual TIF reports in an amount not to exceed $6,000. This will be charged to the TIF districts.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
This is a second year of the state requirement that we have to do every year now.
Yeah, I think we had done this last year. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Item G, review of first quarter financial reports.
I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Is there anything that stands out with staff that's a problem?
I don't think so. I looked over it and I think everything's pretty much right on,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
right where it should be at this time of the year.
Yeah, I thought that too, but I trust your eye a lot better than mine.
No, everything looks good to me, so,
Okay.
I have a question.
sure.
The interest on temporary investments in the miscellaneous revenue. Obviously, you had some pretty good investment income there.
Yeah, a lot of it is geared on when the CDs come due.
Okay.
And they all have different due dates, and a lot of them, the interest isn't recognized until the CD matures. So that's why it kind of, there's a
Oh,
big
okay.
influx then.
That's what skews that then. Okay.
But,
Yeah.
but we should have, we were just talking about this today, we should
Yeah.
get more revenue in, because there, you know, we just got one for 24 months at
2.25%. The last 3 CDs I renewed have been like 20, one was 23 months, the other 2 were 24 months, and they were all around, 2 of them were 2.25 and 2.3% interest, so.
Versus 0.5.
Yeah. So it's gone up a lot
Yeah,
the past
0.2.
couple years.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's all.
Anyone else? Take just to item G, item H, review of building permit, connection, and impact fees.
Any questions on that?
Questions, anyone?
No questions. It just looks like building permits are a little ahead of last year at this time. You know, it's, last year we had 15 at this time, we got 18 now. So
Yep.
it's always good news.
Yep.
Anything else? Okay, item I is for information. Standing water on section of Rotary Bike Trail due to the wettest May on record thus far with over 7.5 inches of rain. Public Works is monitoring the situation, has placed high water signs along the trail. So, do you have any other comments here, Jeff, than that, or?
Do we need to put some no wake signs on there based on Hans's testimony? If 2 people go through at the same time, it could cause a problem, right?
Could cause a tsunami effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's, we're continuing to look at it, and we're continuing to evaluate it. It seems like every time it starts to go down, and I'm thinking, oh, a few more weeks and we'll have dry path again, we get a day like today. So the one thing we have, I think, Mike, were you telling me that you had spoken to one of the peoples that farmed out there for over 40 years, and they said they'd never seen water this high? So, you know, I'm taking that as anecdotal evidence, is that right, Matt?
Anecdotal.
Anecdotal, thank you. You know, so we'll see if that's the case, but we're gonna continue to evaluate. If this happens, you know, next year and the next
Yeah,
year, then,
right.
you know, we really gonna have to start looking at maybe adding some fill and try to maybe push it farther into the woods, but that's gonna take some easements and
Yeah.
land acquisition, so.
Yeah, this is a very unusual May.
Is that in between the 2 big hills, halfway through or
It's
so?
kind of in that real flat area where you see all the dead trees back from the old tornado.
Got it.
I call it the bowling alley because it's just really, really straight right through there.
Okay.
And there's just a couple spots where it dips down and
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff, we were looking at the map this morning, and the map shows the different ponds.
Contours.
It's just one pond out there. When you're riding west and you come, right when you get into the woods, you can actually see the water. I mean, you can sort of tell where the water was last summer. It's expanded dramatically.
Yeah.
But Jeff's right, you know, if this would continue to happen every year, we'll have to think about doing something, obviously.
And we sent out, you see the press release we sent out today to Facebook and on the website and everything, just kind of as an FYI, because we've received a few emails here or there, people just asking if we're aware of it. Of course we are, and you know, there's not much we can do about it. It's not like it's a beaver dam out there that we can just go out and remove. It's, you know,
A lot of rain.
it's a lot of rain, a lot of water. And on top of that, you know, we had a lot of infiltration from the snow melt and everything, so, yeah, we're not in a drought around here right now.
No, that's for sure. Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
How's the water moving through the village, though?
Really well. Yeah, really well.
Yeah.
Knock on, yeah.
All those improvements along Florida Avenue. Are,
What? We don't have Florida Avenue anymore.
where it used to be.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the bike trail in the water? Okay. Item J, status of TDS build-out project.
So Jeff and I and the attorney had a really good meeting last week, Thursday, or Wednesday or Thursday last week, with the TDS engineers, the gentlemen that are going to be doing the installation. And we're fortunate that the lead engineer is a village resident, which is really, really good for us. And he's actually going to come to our next board meeting on June 4th just to do informational meeting, because, you know, they were, the two gentlemen that came here initially said that they were going to be done October or even sooner. That may not happen. They're still, actually, what they're doing right now is they're bringing the service of the power from Verona. And at some point, they're going to have the entire village connected, and then they want to run another source to McFarland. So I don't know if you noticed on Saturday, if you had Frontier, you lost phone service, something got cut, a fire got cut somewhere, and so they want to, so when TDS is here, they want to, if that would happen, they'd have a backup power source. So he'll come, and we asked for a couple contact names from TDS. We're starting to get phone calls upstairs, and we want to obviously, you know, show that to them. We gave them a proposal to cover the inspection by Rookie and Milky, and they're having to take that back to their corporate offices, so we'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Any questions about TDS right now, Doug? Okay. Item K, status of 2018 Parade of Homes event on Thursday, June 21, and possible board action closing of Bryn Hill Drive for Parade of Homes during June 9th through June 24th.
So the event on that Thursday has been canceled. I talked to the gentleman, and it was funny, I ended up talking to him right when they were in the committee meeting talking about it, and I said, you know, the board would maybe consider at the clubhouse, but you're gonna have to really move fast on it. They decided just to hold off on it. But the fact that they really haven't technically asked to close a village street, I thought, you know, the board should do that. And again, they wouldn't be closing it all the time, it's like in the past, they would just close it when the event's going on.
Okay.
You know.
So we need that motion about closing Bryn Hill Drive for the Parade of Homes.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item L, discussion and possible action regarding 2018 road maintenance project. Advertisement, recommended motion to authorize Director of Public Works to solicit bids for the 2018 roadway maintenance project for mill and overlay, crack filling, and seal coating of designated roadways within the village.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, this is just, this is straight down the line of where we had proposed and have our budget. We'll have to look at where the budget numbers come in. What we always do is we kind of put our wish list and what we think the amount will be. It depends on how competitive our prices come back. But we've done this in the fall before, and it's actually worked out really well for us. But it's mill and overlay. You know, I will remind, in light of some comments tonight, mill and overlay is not a structural reconstruction of a roadway. The only way to do that is to over excavate up to a foot to 2 feet, usually 2 feet in bad soils, completely replace with rock and then bring that compacted back up, and then replace with about 4 inches of asphalt. It's a much more expensive fix. You know, we will do street replacements over time and everything like that, but, you know, with what we have as a budget and kind of what we'll be doing, I think this is still a sound plan to be moving forward. But this is just the project and just allowing us to advertise for it, and with bid openings on the 7th of June.
Okay, and for the public who's watching, those roads are Netherwood from North Main Street to East Village boundary, North Prairie Parkway from Netherwood to Nygaard, Waterman Street from Brook Street to Meadow Lane, Oak Street from Orchard Drive, I think that would be, to Netherwood Road, East Richards Road, Mary Hill to North Main Street, and Clover Lane from Scott Street to Cladell Street. So those are the roads involved. Are there questions or comments from trustees? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jeff. You're welcome. Item 9, report of committees. There are none listed. Item 10, minutes not requiring action. A, memorandum of understanding committee for building new library. Building minutes, April 17, 2018 minute, and Oregon Public Library Board minutes, April 11th, and special meeting on April 25th. And we have a new librarian starting, director,
July 2nd.
July 2nd. Jennifer White is a resident in Oregon.
Yep.
And has been librarian at Sauk Prairie for, what, 12 years? 14?
14, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. So welcome to her. And we'll welcome her officially when she's on board here. Item 11, unfinished business, there is none. Item 12, new business, approval of pending new operator licenses approved by the police department. At Mahans and Stop and Go, Jessica Bingham. At headquarters, Julie Bott and Madison Skalski. Quick Trip 302, Bobby Babcock. Quick Trip 372, Tamara Noyce. And Quick Trip 731, Genevieve Feast.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item B, approval of pending renewal operator licenses. Bill's Food Center, Ross Burnt Kinchy and Brent Klein, Nicholas Koch, Jesse Wunsch, and Joseph Shoemaker. And Quick Trip 302, Barbara Hensler and Mary Ann Rollins.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And these are approved by the police department. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, approval of pending new operators licenses. There's a memo from the police department provided in our packet. Headquarters, Blaine Hyde, and Quick Trip 731, Brittany Bakari. So these were not approved by the police department. They sent the memo with what they found in the background checks
And Matt has a comment on
and
that.
asked us to make the decision.
Do you need a first and a second to discuss?
Yeah.
I'll move it, move
Thank you.
to approve.
You have a second?
What's the motion?
Are you moving
Just so we can
Discuss.
discuss it, just so we can discuss it.
The motion to approve the licenses?
No, just, we're, in order to talk about it, don't we do a motion and then you second it and then you
We should.
discuss and ask questions and then you vote? Isn't
Yeah.
that how this works?
I thought you
I'm
said
making
move
the
to
motion.
approve. That's
Well,
why I
move,
was-
no, I'm making the motion to discuss,
Oh,
I
okay.
guess, that's what I meant.
Well, it would be a motion to approve
Or disapprove.
or disapprove. Yeah, and then that's,
I'm
then,
just-
yeah,
Just-
yep.
It's also orderly.
Isn't
A minute
that-
ago,
yes.
what just happened?
very-
I was just following the protocol. I
Do
made
you want a
the
motion to approve or disapprove? And we have to vote either way, so,
It doesn't matter.
Well,
which.
right, well, I'll motion to approve.
okay.
If it doesn't matter, we have to vote.
Do we have a second?
Well, I'll make a second,
Okay,
just to get the conversation going.
okay. So
And
Matt,
I'm
you
glad
want-
that Matt's got some
Yeah, let's
thoughts,
do it.
because I wanted a recap of what we all decided after the last hoo-ha that we had.
Yeah. With respect to the Blaine Hyde application, it looks like Mr. Hyde did attempt to disclose some minor traffic violations, and it looks like the memo notes that maybe the convictions on some of these were slightly different from what he maybe noted. So for example, he listed speeding on freeway where he was actually convicted of a defective speedometer violation. Actually, it's not unusual for you to be cited for speeding and then you end up with a defective speedometer
Yeah.
conviction. So I don't see any indication for Mr. Hyde that there was any intent to failed to disclose. It's just what he actually disclosed and the conviction record were not exactly lining up. With respect to the Brittany Lucari, back to the Blaine Hyde briefly. I don't see any relationship between these violations and the activity of serving as a bartender.
Right.
Brittany Lucari, this is a little confusing because on quite a few of these, it looks like they're like duplicative. So for example, in 2016, July 5, there's an operating while registration suspended, and July 5, an operating while suspended. That, to me, looks like it's the same thing. It doesn't, I doubt that's two separate violations. And that same issue pops up in a number of other locations. So I don't think there are as many violations maybe as it looks like there are. It's a little unclear whether everything was fully disclosed or not, but it does appear that none of these violations are substantially related to the activity of serving as a bartender.
And it looks like she tried to kind of capture this overwhelming amount of data by bringing a copy of the Wisconsin Circuit Court.
It looks like a good faith attempt to comply and to provide disclosure of prior violations. And so that's what I take from this. And as I recall from the last big discussion about this, the two kind of policy decisions that came out of it were, one, I think it was that the board was only going to look back a certain number of years. I think it might have been 10 years.
10 years.
This is within the 10-year period, but again, none of these are substantially related. And the second was that if somebody did fail to disclose, then that was going to be grounds for automatic administrative denial. It wasn't even going to come to the board.
Correct.
So I think the reason this is in front of the board is I think that there must have been a judgment here that there wasn't a failure to disclose, even if maybe there was some confusion in the way the information was presented.
So it's almost as if there was like a failure to accurately disclose, but an attempt to accurately disclose.
That sounds like a good
And so
characterization.
Chief didn't know which way to go with it.
Maybe, yeah, and I think the chief's, apparently what the chief is now doing is, he's not making a recommendation, he's not saying I approve or deny, he's just saying, here's the information,
So, yeah.
which I think makes sense.
So I just want to make sure that we're clear. So these operating while suspended, these are traffic violations, and so
Yeah.
under state statute, we really should not, these are not grounds to deny because they don't involve alcohol or drugs, correct? Because this is what got us into trouble last time with our municipal judge.
Yeah,
So I
and
just want to make that clear.
Yes,
So that when
the-
she comes back,
these are
I want to be
not,
clear on that.
yep, these are
Okay.
not related to the license activity. I think it would be unlawful to deny the license on the grounds that she has this particular set of traffic violations.
Can we have that put in the minutes, perhaps that last statement by Matt? It'd be unlawful to deny based on these traffic violations. That would make me feel better, that I'm making the right decision. Yeah.
I have a concern though, just because when people have violations like this, it's a judgment call that they're making. And when you give someone a license to sell alcohol, they have to make judgment calls all the time. They have to decide whether or not to card someone. They have to decide when someone is being overserved or not, and when to cut them off. And, you know, to make sure they have to have a certain, I mean, we're depending on their judgment for public safety. So I think that these do have a bearing on whether or not we grant a license to someone. Maybe not because of they directly relate, but they sort of indirectly reflect on someone's character.
Yep, and I agree with that. I know substantially related probably means it says alcohol in the violation, right?
Well, what the courts have said about substantially related, I mean, the statute, the language of the statute is that there needs to be a substantial relationship between the offenses and the licensed activity. The courts have indicated that in evaluating or applying that test, you need to determine whether the circumstances that associated with the violation are the kind of circumstances that would present you with an opportunity to commit the same kind of violation within the context of the license activity. Now, the test is difficult to apply, but if what one says is that, well, we're talking about judgment here, I mean, basically any violation of any law, one could say there was bad judgment involved, I think. And so that would make all offenses substantially related to the licensed activity. I mean, I would think that anytime you commit a violation of criminal law, you're probably exercising bad judgment. Anytime you're violating traffic laws, there's a good chance you're exercising bad judgment.
I'd like to point out that the application does say, put everything down. It doesn't say just put the offenses that are related to you getting this liquor license.
Right,
So
which is an interesting conundrum in itself. So, because and the reason for that, I believe, is that the idea is, well, let me say a couple things. One, it's then allowing the village to make the judgment about what's substantially related and what's not, rather than leaving it up to the applicant, okay? And so if you said to the applicant, just put down what's substantially related, if they didn't list things and there was a disagreement, then they could simply say, well, I didn't think it was substantially related. I personally think that this process we go through of requesting that somebody write everything down, since we then check it and fill it all out, it's kind of an interesting exercise. Why are we doing it? Because we could say, well, we're not going to make you list everything. We're just going to do our background investigation, which we do, and we're going to find out what there is, and we're going to determine if it's substantially related. And if it is substantially related, you're not going to get your license. The fact that we go through this exercise, the practical effect of it is that it then excludes a certain number of people based on their failure to disclose accurately and entirely their convictions over the last 10-year period. Whether, and in our last meeting about this, we were very clear, whether that was intentional or accidental or otherwise. There's no question, it's not a question of how or why it happened. If you didn't put them all down, and you missed anything within the last 10 years, then it's an administrative denial automatically.
6 months.
And you can't reapply for 6 months. That's the decision that was made at the last meeting. This substantial relationship test is very difficult. I grant you that. And it's your call, not my call, as to what's substantially related. I'm just giving you my legal opinion. I've had to apply this test, I don't know, 25 or 30 times in the last 10 years. So I've kind of got some sense of what it's like.
What do you mean apply this test?
I've had to make a judgment, a legal judgment, as to whether something was substantially related or not,
Okay.
in the context of advising a client about that.
Gotcha.
But in this case, it looks like both applicants attempted, at least, right? It says that Brittany printed out her Wisconsin Circuit Court access information, and Blaine, I think, it said he tried to do things, but
Brittany
Some stuff
apparently
is not-
came in with a printout
Yeah.
saying, here's my conviction record, which may not have been entirely complete. It's a little hard to tell. The memo says that this information, I think the printout listed 8 separate traffic violations. You'll notice here there are 18 listed.
yes.
Under your policy, that's an automatic denial and you can't reapply for 6 months. Why is it here? But I'm not sure. One reason it might be here is, well, maybe some of these things are redundant. I'm not sure. There's at least 3, if not 4 of these here where something's listed twice and it might be just the same thing.
I was actually going to ask you about that. I think, and I could be wrong, but I believe the problem is you can't register your vehicle without a valid license. So when they were getting pulled over, they were getting not registered vehicle and an invalid license. That's what it looks like to me, but
I'm not able to really interpret it that far. I can't really tell. So this is the challenge with, in my view, this is the challenge with this kind of process that we're left with. Look, if this person had completely listed everything, in my opinion, these are not substantially related to the licensed activity of serving alcohol. Even if you might think, well, gee, this person uses pretty bad judgment because they don't have a license, yet they continue to drive a car. But the purpose of the statute is to say that, look, we're not going to deny employment opportunities to people based on these kinds of convictions, unless there's a real relationship between the conviction itself and the kind of employment or activity that they're interested in engaging in. If we were to say that this is substantially related, then it would be lawful in Wisconsin for any employer or any governmental entity to say, you can't have any job or any license in the state of Wisconsin on the basis of this list of convictions, I think.
Are you aware of any municipalities that have been sued for violations of equal employment as a result of denying work based on
This kind
not
of,
substantially related activity?
I haven't personally had one of my clients involved in that kind of litigation. Has it happened? I assume it has, but I've not been involved in that personally.
So I'll tell you, as a business owner, I'd be very concerned about the liability of overextending the application of substantially related and denying somebody employment based on behaviors that could have been interpreted as non-substantially related.
Well, if you deny the application and it turns out, and you do get challenged and it turns out you're wrong, you pay their attorney's fees. They do get their attorney's fees if they challenge, so.
And I would be in favor of going back and taking a look at that application and, asking ourselves, it's good to look at that kind of stuff all the time anyhow, just to kind of reevaluate and ask ourselves if we're accomplishing what we're trying to accomplish with the application. I tend to feel that that question in particular doesn't do anything for me. I don't believe that somebody for failing to list a couple of violations or a handful or more when they've got extensive violations is an indication of their poor character, and yet I'd be led to believe that failing to list a violation is somehow an indictment of their character. I don't agree with that, because as you had said earlier, we're going to do a check anyway. And personally, I know that I've gotten 2 speeding tickets. Matter of fact, I think I got 2 in the Village of Oregon, so here I sit. If I was to fill out that application right now, I couldn't tell you whether I've got 2. I couldn't tell you when they were. I probably would tend to minimize the impact of that on the decision overall, because in my mind, what's a speeding ticket got to do with what I'm applying for? And I'd be making a critical error the way things set right now, without recourse, except for 6 months down the road.
Well, I gave my opinion on this when we had our bigger discussion.
I guess my opinion is I kind of agree with what Matt has alluded to, that I don't like that we put the burden on the person trying to get a job. I think since we're going to check it anyway, why don't we just have them fill out an application, and then we run the check, and we look at it, and we determine if that's going to be something that's going to cause them to not function in the potential job to the best of their ability. We look at it that way. But the other thing I looked at in this case is that it's been over 2 years. And these were all operating a vehicle violations, it looks like to me. So I guess I wouldn't want to prevent them from getting a job based on what I see in front of me right here. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think this gal, I think she tried to do it right. She printed out the CCAP, she printed it out, right, and handed it in, and then she listed multiple operating under suspension and multiple operating without insurance. So, to me, I don't think she was trying to hide anything. I think she was really trying to do the right thing. It's a judgment call, I think, at this point for the board to say, is this substantially related to bartending? And I'm going to go with the state statute that it's not. If it's not alcohol or drugs, I'm not in favor of denying someone the ability to work. I'll always vote for someone to get a job. She's trying to support herself, and I think she tried to do everything right. And if these had all happened in 2018, then I'd be maybe thinking differently. But I also try to give people the benefit of the doubt, which may or may not be a personality flaw.
So can I ask an opposite question about liability?
Yes.
Let's say that we approved this for Brittany. And let's just say hypothetically that something happens in the future where she serves someone at a bar and they're drunk and they go out and get in their car and they kill somebody. Is it conceivable that they could come back and say, what, the village board approved this person, look at all these violations, and sue us?
Not conceivable at all. The village has immunity from liability for that kind of decision. That decision is one that even if someone could prove that it was negligent and that the board should have known that approving this license was likely to result in that kind of injury, the board would still have, which, by the way, I think would be almost impossible to show. But even if that could be shown, the board would have immunity from liability. The village would have immunity from liability.
I have just one question now. How long can this be on the board? I mean, her last one was 16, but then the other ones were 13. And it doesn't include liquor at all. It's just her driving. I don't know what to say unless we will want the police department to look over this again. I don't know.
I think the police have found everything they can,
Yeah.
Yep.
as far as looking at it
Yeah,
again.
this is everything they found.
Yeah, so it's up to us to make the decision.
One more question. If someone is applying and they don't know everything, would the DOT be another place they could print out a record?
Candy walks them through
How
it.
does that-
I mean, she counsels
Like-
them on how to fill out the application.
Yeah, I'm not.
And one of the things, Jeff, like in response to your question, if you were up to the counter and you were saying it to her, she'd say, take your time. Take the application home, run your record and fill it out. Don't stand here and rush and do it. So she's actually really good at the counter. I mean, she bends over backwards to help people fill it out correctly.
The only thing I would add to that is, so it says at the bottom of this memo that not all of these violations appear on the Wisconsin Circuit Court Access website. So I'm not really sure where you go to find your record as it relates to municipal court violations in Monona or Maple Bluff or Town of Madison. I'm not sure where you go to get that information. Clearly, the police department was able to generate it somehow, but I don't know. I wouldn't know how to direct someone to find all this. I would maybe go to the police department and ask them to do it. They apparently know how.
Okay.
They can find your record.
They will find out.
Yeah.
Other thoughts? You know, it looks to me like state law pretty much dictates we have to approve this. I think some of us feel that there is a strong relationship to judgment and selling alcohol. I personally think there is. I think she's shown a lot of bad judgment in what she's done. How's that carried over to selling alcohol? Who knows what that connection is, but I think the state has made it pretty clear that in their mind it's not.
Well, I mean, again, it's your call to make, not mine. I just think that if that's the board's conclusion, I think it's hard to find any offense that went, I mean, I think you could make that case as to any violation of law, that there was an element of bad judgment, and bad judgment's related to serving alcohol. And so every offense is substantially related, and I don't think that was the purpose of the law.
Yeah.
I think the purpose was to have it a more narrow definition of substantially related than everything.
Yeah. You know, I agree an offense is bad judgment, but I think a whole list of offenses is blatant disrespect for the law and really bad judgment. To me, it's different when there's a list like this, where it's time after time after time after time. And she didn't care if she lost her license, she just got the car and drove. So is she gonna care when she sells alcoholic liquor? I don't know. there's a connection or not.
Well, and-
There certainly could be. I mean, it's not
And
for you to decide.
that's your call to make,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
I don't have a problem with Blaine Heights. I think he's fine. That's not really been a discussion. It's
You
been
want to vote on these separately?
pretty
then?
Licari.
Yeah, how do we vote on them? How would we separate them, I guess, if we wanted to vote separately?
Well, we could, if we wanted to vote either one down, we would vote against the motion, and then bring them back separately and vote on them, right, Matt?
Or just amend the motion to just go one at a time. So right now, the motion is on the table is to approve both, so I'd say I would amend it to
So-
approve and then pick which one you want.
I'll move to amend it to, God, now we
Vote on
have
them
to say
separately.
approve or dismiss. Yeah, I would like to split them apart and vote on approval separately.
Okay.
So
So
would
which
you
one-
want to put a motion forward for one or the other? Do you have one in your mind that you'd want a motion to approve?
Should we could do Blaine first? if
Blaine
you
But
want?
we need a second.
Or-
I'll second
Well, if she
that.
wants, yeah.
Okay.
Just trying
So
to
the
figure out what.
motion second to split them.
Okay.
So Pollock's second.
So I can just call on,
That's fine, why don't you just vote on that, and then we'll move on to the next
Okay.
motion.
okay. So all in favor of that, splitting these two candidates for the vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. So then we need a motion for approval for, or non-approval for one of them.
Let's, roll call, please.
I'll make a motion to approve Brittany Lucari.
I'll second that, and I'd like a roll call vote.
Okay, so motion second to approve Brittany Licari, and we will do a roll call. I was planning on that. So any discussion? Okay, so the motion second to approve Brittany Lucari for a new license at Quick Trip 731. Roll call, please.
Pollock,
Yes.
Staton,
No.
Peterson,
No.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Grenier,
Yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries, so she's approved. So need a motion on Blaine Height.
I'll make a motion to approve Blaine Hyde.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, that carries 7-0. Okay.
I really want to thank the board for that discussion. I thought that was really, a really good discussion. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Item 13, we have future agenda items that will be coming our way. And then item 14, board may meet in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.851E to discuss a ground lease for new youth center buildings. Need a motion for
So moved.
closed session?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Grenier,
Yes.
Carpenter,
Yes.
Boudreaux,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Pollock,
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to closed session. We will adjourn from closed session from this room.